lot of the people that I've dated have not always been the best people. Finally had to realize that my picker is off, so I've had to go in and rewire some of me. And in that process, you find out it's like working on a light up board. You press one button, this light's supposed to light up. Push a button, and a different light lights up. So let's figure out why. So then you go in and figure out the wiring to it. Turns out there's another wiring problem over here. And I had to really realize that I need to be more independent, because like if I get into a relationship, I focus all on the relationship.
Beautiful people, welcome in for yet another episode of the Homie Love Hour with me, your host, Joe Buck. Now, continue along the same vein of having more guests on the show and overall just offering a little bit more perspective from different people's points of view. On today's episode, we have fellow podcaster, he has the mind of JPA, and on the level 162, we have Mr. James Orville.
Hey, what's happening, Captain? Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure. James, you want to take a second, tell the people about your podcast, tell the people about yourself?
Yeah, my name's James Allville. The podcast is Mind of JPA. The podcast is just all about giving back and helping people with the things in between of how I put it, like what you're doing with your life. If you're trying to better your life, I try and like give advice to the in between sessions of what you're trying to do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like some days, if you're trying to change your life of, getting sober or something, well, what's going to happen in between you hearing something and wanting to do it? You know what I mean? So I try and go that route. Sometimes I just riff on an episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the streaming is on the level 162 on Twitch, and on TikTok it is on the level 162 gaming.
And how did you get your start in podcasting?
Well, I was living in Denver, Colorado, and it just hit me one day. It's like, you know what? Start a podcast. Back then, it was called Stoned Out. I was enjoying a lot of the high mountain greens out there, and for some reason, the name Stoned Out just came about. And when you get into podcasting, you have no idea what to do and what you're going to talk about. So that was kind of like my blueprint of what I wanted to do in a podcast. And then I just kept going with it. So I moved back to Ohio here, and then I started the Mind of James. And that's basically how I got into it. It was just like, start a podcast.
Hell yeah. I mean, that's pretty cool. Like, kind of just going for it is honestly, I feel like it's the toughest part, because so many people are like, oh, I want to do this, but I don't know how. But there is no real blueprint for how to do it or when to do it. Sometimes like you got to just make your own way and kind of wing it and hope for the best. So with your gaming podcast, you play a lot of FPSs? Is that what I saw mainly?
Yeah, I do a lot of Call of Duty, and I've been getting into a game called Sea of Thieves lately, and that has been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun. Building a really good community over there.
Oh yeah, so is Sea of Thieves pretty similar to like what would you compare it to?
It's a pirating game. So you get a ship, you roll around, you could just do certain missions, or you can go sink other players' ship. Exactly what you think a pirate would do.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of like, oh God, what is it? Assassin's Creed Black Sails?
Yep.
Yeah. That was my favorite one.
It's really cartoonish though.
Okay.
Like if you get down and play, it's more on the cartoony side. Like, you know how Call of Duty is to like Apex Legends?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Apex is or Fortnite. It's more on the cartoony side, but it's a lot of fun.
You mentioned you played Call of Duty before.
Yep.
What's the highest ranking that you've gotten?
So far, well, on Black Ops 6, I'm Prestige 10.
Damn.
And done with the Battle Pass. So I'm just waiting for Verdansk to come back, or Warzone. I think all the Call of Duty communities like, just bring back Verdansk. What are you guys even doing here?
I was really good at FPSs when I was younger. You know, starting with Halo, Call of Duty, like
Gears of War?
dude, Gears.
Yes. Yes.
I tried to be like a semi-pro Gears player,
Yeah.
and I did not have it in me. And
I don't know how they get with those trick shots.
dude,
Yeah, it's wild.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like I never really had it. I would just get lucky sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Then, dude, I just remember like calling out of work, being like 17, 18, calling out of work so I could play video games with my friends or borrowing people's headsets just so I could
Yep.
talk shit to other people.
Yep.
Oh man,
Oh, dude. The shit talking on these games is awesome.
dude,
I
yeah.
mean, with Sea of Thieves, you kind of want to be like, you understand what's happening. Like, we're gonna sink you
Mm.
because that's what pirates do. But like, sometimes people just go super toxic, as it's called, and just shit talk you all day long.
I don't know. It seems kind of ironic getting shit talked in like a cartoony pirate game.
It is very ironic, and it's almost like, dude, don't you have to go to school or something? Like,
Yeah,
get out of here.
yeah. It's like let the adults enjoy like a little
Yeah,
bit of downtime.
yeah. Let me sink a ship for once. Come on, man.
I don't
So
know,
what
like,
got you into podcasting?
um, honestly, I've always enjoyed listening to podcasts,
Yeah.
and yeah, I kind of felt like there wasn't really like the niche that I'm working on creating. I feel like it doesn't fully exist yet. So I'm trying
Yeah.
to, get in at the ground floor. And the big things for me are like unlearning a lot of the like I don't want to call it toxic, but a lot of like the societal expectations put on not only men or black men, but like people in general.
Hmm.
Like there's it's so much to like feel so much pressure from everyone around you
Hmm.
and to try to live up to their expectations just to realize like sometimes those same people that are making you feel bad are either just as messed up or sometimes even more messed up than you is like
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty wild to think about.
Yeah.
It's like when you're younger and you talk to your parents, you see them as kind of like this infallible being that
Hmm.
knows everything and does everything correctly. And then you get older and you realize, like,
They're full of shit.
or you're like, fuck, my parents were struggling the same as me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yep.
they didn't know what they were doing. They were just hoping for the fucking best.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like once you
Isn't it crazy to realize when you hit that realization,
mhm.
finally hit that realization, like, man, my parents were just doing the best that they could with the information they were provided with.
Mhm.
Isn't it just, it's fascinating to me that it's just like, okay, now I have all of this to unlearn, or I
Mhm.
have to change something in, because I don't want to carry on that kind of behavior.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like having those conversations or, you know, working on unlearning all that stuff is truthfully the hardest part.
Uh-huh.
Is like, I've talked about in the podcast like, you know, being told like boys don't cry, like be a man, toughen up, all that type of stuff. And I'm just like, bro, like I don't want that for the people in my life, especially like my nephews. I don't have any
Hmm.
kids, but like, my nephews, like the young people that I come in contact with, I'm like, man, don't ignore your emotions. Like that's one of the
Yeah.
worst things you can do.
Hmm.
Because like you're setting yourself up for failure. And the people who tell you
Oh
to
yeah.
ignore that shit, the people who tell you to ignore that shit, usually it's because they themselves are trying so hard to ignore their own emotions. And it's
Hmm.
like that shit doesn't help. It doesn't go away. It only gets worse. So
Yep.
like, take a day, a few minutes, a couple hours, whatever you need, and just like address that shit. It's not going to be easy, but I guarantee you will feel like a better person after you do it, as opposed to just like kicking the can down the road.
Definitely don't bottle it up either. I've had to learn a lot or relearn a lot of regular. How am I supposed to say that? Emotional regulation.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm upset about something, okay, let's take a walk. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Go get a nut of butter out of the machine, find something to laugh at, and why did that make me mad? You know, what was the triggering thing that made me mad? Okay, let's not make it make me mad anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It working on yourself with emotions. You said it. It's the hardest thing.
Yeah. I mean, just working on yourself in general, it's
Hmm.
so hard. It's so much work, but I feel like it's one of those things that once you start it, you don't really want to stop doing it.
Uh-huh.
It's like spring cleaning, but for your life,
Hmm.
and or at least that's my approach. And I think a big thing to realize, like I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he was saying like we were talking about uh, like fitness and going to the gym and all that type of stuff, but he was just like a big thing to remember is like you are going to slip up and not to beat yourself up too bad about it. Like hold yourself accountable, but don't get so upset with yourself that you just give up completely.
Hmm.
And
That's
that's
that's where I'm at.
yeah,
If I slip up with my emotions, man, I beat myself up for like 2 days, and I'm like, all right, we're done. You learned your lesson. Don't do it again.
yeah, and
Uh, it's okay to
that's
slip up.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
we all slip up, we do things wrong, but it's so much easier when you realize like you're the one putting pressure on yourself. So
Hmm.
you get to control how much pressure you're putting on yourself. And, unlearning and relearning, just like healing, there is no blanket answer. There is no one-stop shop. It's a constant thing. And also like everyone has to unlearn, relearn, heal, address all these things at their own pace, which is like something that's so important because sometimes, other people will look at what someone else is doing or how they're living their life and they're like, "Well, how come my life isn't like that?" And it's like, "Dog, you can't."
Comparison is the thief of joy.
Man, that's bro. It's so fucking true. So it's like
Hmm.
I don't know. There's times where even I catch myself looking at other people and be like, why don't I have that? And then I'm just like, because I'm not ready for it.
Hmm.
Like if I wanted those things, I would make an active effort to get to those things.
Hmm.
Not talk about it, not hate on someone else because they have it. I would be doing what I need to do to get to that thing. But it's like, do I really want that thing? Am I ready for the responsibilities attached to that? And if the answer is like or no, then it's like, then why am I upset with someone for having a possession that I don't have if I don't really want it? Like the
Yeah.
shit's not going to bring me joy. It's just one more thing I'm gonna have to stress about.
That is absolutely true. You know what? And you can also clap for them too, because like they put in the work to get it. I always
Mm-hmm.
like to clap for people. If someone has something I don't, but I do want it, I'm gonna clap for them. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, it's a not yet answer. It's
Mm-hmm.
not yet answer.
Yeah,
What are
yeah.
what are kind of things you use to help you get through your healing journey? Like journaling. Like I like to journal. I also consider the podcast therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, what kind of things do you like to do?
Um, I have a lot of internal conversations. Like that
Dude,
is that is the biggest thing because I don't always enjoy opening up to people or
yeah.
talking to people about, whatever I'm going through, but I have to talk to myself. Like I know how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going to talk to anyone, it's going to be myself.
Mm-hmm.
So having those conversations is a bit easier because there are times where I'll get upset about something and it's something so innocuous, so minuscule, like it's so peripheral that it's like I had to go out of my way to find a reason to be upset about that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think about it, I'm like, am I actually upset about this? And it's like, no, I'm upset about something else but I'm projecting that anger onto this thing because this is tangible as opposed to the other thing that I think is out of my reach.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I'm not doing that, I do write. Sometimes short stories, sometimes poetry, sometimes I just go for a walk in nature and think about what it is that I'm upset about. How do I prevent this thing from upsetting me in the future? Or even if I know like this is going to upset me in the future, how do I work through this? And I kind of just take it from there. There's no blanket answer or blanket response to everything. You just got to kind of figure that shit
Find
out.
out what works for you. Yeah.
Exactly. And what about you?
I like to journal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Gaming has been a lot of therapy too. I'll say that. Just getting out, like if I have a huge problem going on, let's get out of the world for a sec.
Mm-hmm.
And usually the answer will come to me there. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
what, like, if I need to figure, the answer will come there. The gym, and to be perfectly honest with you, I hated the gym up to like, the idea of going to the gym,
Mm-hmm.
like a year and a half ago. But like, I moved back to Colorado and I, was living with my parents for a couple months. I was like, I gotta get out of this house. Like, I can't. So I was like, let's just go work out, man. Let's see how that goes. And now it's been like a Monday through Friday thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps too. Um, Podcasting. Um, Sometimes putting in like I'm a welder by trade,
Okay.
and sometimes just putting my head down and welding as much as I can helps me too. Throwing
Uh,
on some like Metallica and just going at it.
what's the coolest thing you've welded so far?
In my career welding, I would have to say it was actually out in Colorado. I was building um, the chutes and all the things that Amazon, UPS, and FedEx
Mm-hmm.
push their packages down. So like that, all the belts and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
the company would build them. What I'm doing now too is that like the sprinkler systems in buildings.
Okay. Yeah.
So we build the base and the engine to sell to a third party water pump company to push all that water through.
Oh yeah.
And what I find fascinating is that some of these things, like they go to Kazakhstan, they'll go to India. Like it's just cool to see where it goes. Definitely the worst was livestock trailers. That was the worst.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine. Like, I don't know. I've always thought welding was cool, but I don't know. Like, I had a friend who became a welder. I don't know if he's still doing it, but he was doing it at one point, and it was the same thing for him. He said he really enjoyed it and like loved what he was doing, but I don't know. I feel like it takes a special kind of person to be able
If you,
to be a welder.
if you want to be like, I wanted to be a field welder, so like
Mm-hmm.
welding pipe and having my own rig and all that stuff. And I just happened to, by the grace of God, find this place,
Mm-hmm.
and it's treated me well. So I mean, like you may want to go into being a field welder or a shop welder and do the exact opposite.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, um, or you could be a certified welding inspector, a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of opportunity if you want to go that route with it. So
Dude, every time I think of like field welders, I think of the the one welder. He was at a theme park and like looked up at this ride and saw that the side of it had broken. So every time the cars were going by, it was separating.
mhm.
And
Mhm.
he was like, "Hey, that shouldn't do that."
Mhm.
And they had to shut down the ride and like emergency like evacuate people off the ride. And the guy was like, "If I wasn't a welder, I would not have caught that, and people probably would have ended up dying."
Yeah, and how many people rode that ride before he caught it, and it was like that. Yeah,
It's,
it is the most annoying thing sometimes because I'll get on a train at a theme park or something like that, or just a forklift, and you just look at the welds, and it's like, God, dude, just get out of here.
dude, yeah. I like to sometimes like I'll just watch welding videos just to kind of see like the different approaches and the different temperatures and all that type of stuff. It's really cool to watch, honestly.
Hmm.
But
Just ask your friend if he teach you a little bit. You know what I mean? Just give you the basics.
he's down in Parker, I think. I think that's where he is now. So he'd
Okay.
probably I don't have the time to go down there, unfortunately.
Yeah. So what do you
Yeah.
get? So what you do stand up? I see you do it on your Instagram. How long you been
Mhm.
doing stand up?
Mm, this summer will make 3 years.
Oh, congratulations, dude.
Nah, appreciate it, man. It
That's awesome.
actually like part of my like healing process and working through process is to make jokes through things.
Hmm.
And
Can't laugh, you're gonna cry.
exactly. And
Yeah.
it's like sometimes it is really helpful just to make jokes about situations. Um,
Hmm.
kind of told my girlfriend in the beginning, and I was like, best and worst case scenario is like whatever we're going through in this relationship, I'm going to talk about on stage.
Hmm.
So like be prepared for that. It could go really well or you could just hate it. But if you do, just like let me know. But
Yeah.
like telling jokes, it's something I've always wanted to do, but I
Hmm.
never thought I was funny. And I never thought I was funny enough to tell jokes, like in general. And my buddies believed in me and kind of helped me come up with some material. And then I was supposed to host a show for them, like be the MC. And then they were like, hey, we got the MC, so you're just going to perform instead. So it was very terrifying the very first time. It's terrifying every time, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the thing they don't tell you. It's like, some people are like, oh, it gets easier with time. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
I that's one of the things that I have a huge problem with is getting up on stage. Like I started stand up out in Denver,
Mhm.
down at Rise Comedy,
Okay.
and um, every time I just got up on stage, I felt like I was going to throw up. And being back here in Cincy, I've done it a little bit, but when I was on first, but now I'm on nights.
Mhm.
So like, uh, I just, it's one of those things that just absolutely terrifies me is to actually get up on in front of people on stage. I never
And
thought it would, but like, cause I'm normally the guy, like I'll show up at a party and I'm just cracking jokes, making people laugh and whatnot, but like getting in front of strangers has like shaken me to my core.
you know, it's kind of funny because I meet a lot of people who are like, "Oh, you're a stand-up comedian? I want to do stand-up comedy." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Like, what's your style?" And they're like, "Oh, well, when I'm talking to my friends, I make funny jokes and they love it." And I'm like, "Okay." I,
Yeah, that's,
like,
yeah, sometimes that don't work on stage.
yeah, there was a bartender one time. He was like, "Yeah, like my whole style of comedy is like I just make fun of people." Yeah, that works really well in New Jersey, but that's
Yeah.
kind of it. Like
Hmm.
everywhere else, it might get you stabbed, but like you also got to know the people. You can't just get up on stage and insult a bunch of people. It has to be funny or something along those lines. But it's like I recommend to anybody like if you want to try it, go to an open mic. There is no pressure at an open mic because most of the time the people who are there are kind of just in their own little world.
Hmm.
It's just a bunch of other people who are also trying it. So just go to an open mic and just try that shit. And like we host open mics, and I got to tell you, I've seen some pretty horrible comedy like from people, but I've also been like pleasantly surprised by people where I'm like, oh wow, like you have a lot of potential, or genuinely, I just think you're a really funny person. So like I
Mm-hmm.
tell everybody, I'm like, try that shit, see how far you can take it. You might, do two shows and be like, okay, I'm good. Or, you might do fucking 10 years of shows and be like, this is still exciting, this is still new. I want to keep doing it.
Mm-hmm. I gotta. My problem is too with just personally, my problem is like writing.
Hmm.
It's sitting down writing a joke. Like I have a little joke book in my lunch bag and I write down ideas,
Hmm.
but then it's actually coming up with like the words to make it flow correctly. Like figuring out what the hook is or the punchline.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah. And like I will tell you, I don't write anything down. Um,
really?
no, I tried it in the beginning. It didn't work for me.
So you
Uh,
just like do you just memorize what you're gonna say before you get on stage, or you just ripping it?
no, it's kind of somewhere in between. Like
Okay.
the best way I can explain it is like when I'm up on stage, in my head, I'm looking at a giant board of ideas, and usually every set has an overarching theme. So every joke that I tell is connected.
Okay.
Because for me, like I enjoy storytelling. I want to tell a story. So even if it's a bunch of small stories, I want them all to connect so they flow. So nobody's confused or it's like, wait, what the fuck does that joke have to do with anything else? So
Okay.
um, instead of writing things down, I I'll have an idea, and over the course of could be a day, week, month, whatever, I will revisit it and have a conversation with myself about it. Where it's like, okay, if I were to say this, how would I say it? What is it that I'm trying to portray? What do I want the punchline to be like? Like, how do I want the crowd to react? And then
Okay.
I'll base it, around that. And there are times where I've told a joke, and then as soon as I get off stage, I'm like, fuck. It would have worked better if I would have said this instead of this other thing.
Okay. Okay.
And then the next time I remember it. And then sometimes I might revert back to how I said it before. And then, I just keep workshopping it until it's where I want it to be.
Okay.
So
Okay. That's it. I've never heard someone say they don't they hardly write anything down. That's new to me.
yeah, I've
Wow.
I've
Kudos to you, man.
I, I
Kudos.
I appreciate it. Like I have a notebook where like I might jot down like an idea or like a list if I'm not 100% like fully sure of what I want to commit to.
Hmm.
Then I'll say, okay, I'll start with this particular joke, and from this joke I'll go to this joke, and from that joke I'll try this joke, and then I'm just kind of like connecting the string to what works.
Hmm.
And then there's times where I've done that and I get up on stage and I'm like, you know what? Fuck these jokes. I'm going to do all new ones.
Like, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I feel like kind of bad because like the guys I do comedy with will practice and like do sets and
hmm.
we'll run through material, we'll workshop jokes, and then I'll get up on stage the night of a show and just do a bunch of stuff that we didn't practice, didn't go over, and they're just like, "Where the fuck did that joke come from?" And I'm like, "I don't know, man. Kind of just
It
came to
was
me
it
in the
was
moment."
back there. It
Yeah,
was back there. Yeah.
it's like sometimes it works really well, and like I said, like sometimes, like I've bombed before. Like I bombed in
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's a
was
lot. Oof.
I was in Fort Morgan. You ever been up there?
Yeah. No. So where I've never been. Let me rephrase that. Like east of
Hmm.
Denver a little bit.
Okay.
Fort Collins is where the girl I was dating, she was living up in Fort Collins. And then we went to the Rocky Mountains.
Okay.
And that was about it.
So if you take, I want to say it's 76, and you just take
Okay.
it northeast,
Okay.
it's like where Wyoming, Nebraska, and Colorado touch.
Okay.
It's just open pastures, and it sucked. But I went there to do a show
Yeah.
with my buddy Ethan, and texted me out of the blue and was like, "Hey, I'm doing a show in Fort Morgan. If you want to do the show, I'd love to have you on it." And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So no prep, no nothing. Drove to my girlfriend's house, picked her up. We drove out there, and as I'm pulling into a parking spot, I get a text from him, and it's like, "Hey, man, there's nobody here. If you don't want to come, like, I completely understand." And I'm like, "Well, fuck, I'm already here." I
Yeah.
get there, and I walk inside. I don't even see him. So it's like you walk in and you're in the bar, and there's a side door, and there's a whole separate club on the other side. And I go in there, and it's just him and the other comedians are just sitting there looking at each other. And the show was already supposed to have started. So we get ready to leave. He pays me for still coming. I think he paid me like $50 for gas because I drove from where I lived to Fort Morgan. I think was like total maybe like 2.5 or 3 hours.
Damn.
And so he felt bad, so he paid me. And then the manager like was on the phone and like didn't think that I could hear him. And he was like, "We got to get people in here right now. These guys are about to leave. We can't let them leave. They have to perform." So they just start grabbing people and bringing them into the show. Half the people didn't seem like they wanted to be there, but this one dude was piss drunk, like drunk before we even got there. And when I went up, he fucking hated me. And I made a joke about them having an Arby's because like the Arby's here shut down.
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, I'm in a new town. I wanna I wanna make a joke kind of about the town, but also like kind of boost the town up a little bit. And I was like, yeah, like Fort Morgan, what a wild place to be. Like, I'm really stoked to be here. Like, I live in a very small town. We don't even have 1,000 people, but like, I knew I was in the big city when I saw that shining neon Arby's boot in the sky. And the dude was the piss drunk dude just stands up and he was like, "You talking shit about Arby's? You talking shit about Arby's?" And I'm like, "No, man. it's just a joke." And he was like, "Arby's got the meats. What do you got?" And I
Like what the?
was, I was like, I got nothing, man. I'm sorry. Like, I didn't mean to offend you and every other fucking diehard Arby's fanatic in Fort Morgan. And
Like that cinnamon latte fucking sucked. Like
I was like, bro, I don't even eat at Arby's. I just thought it would be like a funny topical joke. Then I was like, this whole town smells like animal blood and shit. Like, I imagine this is how every battle during the Civil War smelled. No one laughed. At that point, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start insulting people. So I just did that until people couldn't tell if I was being mean or like being funny. So they would laugh and then kind of just look confused. And I just did that until my time was up.
hey,
And
and it bombed.
I felt like I bombed, but apparently there were people laughing. I just couldn't hear them over the sound of my own blood pressure like rising. And all you hear is like your heart beating in your ear.
Yeah, the ringing, and then you just black out all of a sudden.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Every time I'm on stage and like I start to hear that, I'm just like I'm waiting to wake up on the ground. And they're like, "Hey man, you didn't finish your set. You just fell over."
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's like I even bombed here before. We were performing at a sports bar. They forgot that they had booked us. So we show up, all the TVs are on. We had to turn some of the TVs off, which pissed people off. And then we had to turn some of the monitors off and some of the projectors off. Tell people we're doing a show. Half the people leave, half stay. I get up there and I'm like, I'm just going to try a bunch of new jokes. None of them went over well. And then the one couple sitting up front, every time I would tell a joke, the wife would elbow the husband and like lean over and talk shit about me. And this dude is just like eating ribs the whole time. Like he's in a whole other planet. And then eventually I tell this joke, it bombs. It's quiet for like 10 seconds. He puts down his ribs and just starts clapping.
Mm-hmm.
And then goes back to eating his ribs. I finish my set, did horrible. I see him, and I wanted to thank him for clapping during my set. And essentially, he was like, "Yeah, no, like I wasn't applauding you. I was applauding the ribs. Sorry."
Like, could have just like lied to me, man.
Yeah. He was just like, "I don't know what the fuck you're talking about." I don't even think he realized like I was there, let alone on stage performing directly in front of him.
Like the ribs were that good.
Those baby back ribs sent that man to another planet.
Oh yeah, dude. So when you what let me ask this question. Who would be like your top five comedians?
Ooh, like past, present, alive, dead.
When you started listening to comedy to now.
Hmm.
And do you mind if I vape on here?
No, you can do whatever you want.
Okay.
Roy Wood Jr., hands down, so fucking funny. And like I've been rewatching a lot of his specials recently.
Mm-hmm.
His storytelling is amazing. His delivery is fantastic. Like honestly, if he put out like 3 more specials, I'd probably watch them all today.
Mm-hmm.
Like Roy Wood Jr., Ali Sadiq, Mike Birbiglia.
Ali Sadiq's "This Is Not Happening"
Yeah.
about his prison story.
Oh,
That was hilarious.
Mexicans got on boots.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so awesome.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm out here practicing.
Yeah, that's like that shit is just crazy to think about. Like that's someone's reality. And the fact that
Yeah.
he took that and used these situations instead of being like angry at the world about it, he took these situations and built like a comedy career out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And now he said he's made more money self-releasing and producing the Domino Effect than he has in his I think like 14 or 15 years of doing comedy prior to doing the Domino Effect.
Yeah. I mean, the game now is to produce your own stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
But it's like there's so many people who don't even think about that. You know, they're like,
mhm.
well, I need to get, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need like Netflix or fucking Comedy Central.
Hulu's coming out with comedy specials now.
Yeah. It's like a lot of these people think it has to be something with them. They don't even think that, hey, I can do this myself, and then I can put it out myself. But it kind of is what it is. Like some people don't want to do it themselves. They're just like, put me in front of a camera, tell me how much time I have, and I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'd say Roy Wood Jr., Mike Birbiglia, Ali Sadiq. After them, I would say one comedian that I've really enjoyed is when I was younger, of course, it was like Louis C.K. and Louis Black.
Louis Black. Yep.
Yeah, Louis Black was like when I was a kid, I thought he was so funny. I'm like, how do you just sit on stage and yell for 30 minutes or an hour and everyone loves it?
Hmm. He
But
did that special. He's like, I can't stop my leg. Was it that one? And he had the harmonica on it.
maybe I don't know. I haven't rewatched his stuff in a long time, but I'd probably say like those guys, old Robin Williams, and then
Robin Williams had just a lot of excitement on stage for me. I enjoyed his comedy and I loved his comedy, but like
hmm,
the excitement sometimes is just it takes away. I think about that more than I think about what he's saying. Like,
well,
man, he's going hard up there.
yeah, like for a lot of people, they're more like more physical like
Yeah,
comics where like they
yep.
have to move around, they have to act everything out, and that's not my thing. I don't have a ton of energy to begin with. I just kind of hang out on stage and tell stories. Like I usually focus more on the storytelling aspect of comedy,
Hmm.
but I can appreciate Robin Williams' ability to take over any room that he was in.
Hmm.
Like I watched the roast of Richard Pryor, and young Robin Williams got up there in a room full of black people and made everybody laugh.
Hmm.
Like he was up there with Richard Pryor, Paul Mooney. I want to say Red Fox was there too, but like all these black all stars to be this young white guy in the room, he did not let that stop him. If anything, he rose to the occasion and was like, "I'm gonna fucking crush this."
Hmm.
And then I really appreciate Ron Funches.
Ron Funches. I, who? Where's he from?
He's I want to say he's from like Portland.
Okay.
He used to be like a real heavy set guy, and he had like kind of disheveled hair, and then he moved to LA and lost a bunch of weight. Now I don't know. He's really funny because I think he represents kind of I think like the softer side of who I am,
Hmm.
because like he talks about growing up in the hood but listening to the Cranberries and listening to Celine Dion, and how like his favorite thing in the world is to like get high and play with his cat, and like he
Hmm.
always had like a pocket full of Skittles everywhere that he went, and he was just eating Skittles out of his pockets everywhere.
Hmm.
So like I think that's something I appreciate about him, and it's kind of like the like unfiltered high thoughts of a man with nothing to prove,
Hmm.
where he just sits there and giggles on stage about really dumb stuff, and there seems to be like no real or ulterior motive to his comedy outside of like, hey, I just want to tell you about this funny thing in my life, and that's really all he does.
Hmm.
But he's been doing comedy, I want to say like at least maybe 10 years, maybe a little bit longer, but I don't know, I enjoy it.
Ron DeFunches?
Ron Funches.
Funches.
Yeah.
Okay, I will definitely look him up after this.
Yeah. What about you?
Okay.
Who are some of the comics you like?
Uh, number one would be George Carlin. Uh, the first comedy special I ever watched was George Carlin's. It's bad for you.
Okay.
That was my first comedy special I ever watched. Um, my number two would be Dave Chappelle.
Hmm.
Number three is Joey Diaz, and then like the reason why I love Joey Diaz is that he says what I think a lot of the times, just that off the wall stuff,
Hmm.
and just the craziest thing you've ever heard. Um, it's really weird. Like sometimes I find comics through their comedy, and then sometimes I find comics through their podcast.
Hmm.
And I usually go, if I find you one way, that's the way I'm sticking. Um, but with him, I can do both. It's really weird. Um, I like and a comic now that I really like is Gary Owen.
Yeah, I like Gary Owen.
I've listened to his specials and it's hilarious.
Yeah,
So.
I appreciate him and like his approach because
Hmm.
he's another one of those people where people hear him talk and they think that it's some sort of like persona that he's putting on, and he's just
Yeah.
like, no,
This
he's
is
like,
me.
yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
this is who I am, this is who I've always been. Like, you can not like it or take it or leave
Yeah.
it, but that's not going to change the fact that this is who I am. Like,
Yeah.
I'm still Gary. I'm still going to tell these jokes. I'm still going to talk the way that I talk. And you know, he's one of those people who refuses to pretend to be something that he's not.
Hmm.
Also,
Yeah.
his podcast is really good too.
I've been starting to listen to it. I started listening to it, and it's like okay, it's like with Tom Segura and the Your Mom House studio and the Your Mom House podcast. Like I love Tom Segura and the Your Mom House podcast. I've watched his specials, and I'm like, they're funny. But like Bert Kreischer,
Mm-hmm.
love his comedy, but his podcast, I'm like, it's all right. I usually tend to stick one way or the other with comics.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't have that ability to cross over to do
Yeah,
both. Where it's like, okay, you're funny on stage. How are you in a conversation?
yeah,
Or you're funny in a conversation. How are you on stage?
yeah. But
And
maybe it just doesn't relate to me. I'm just not relating to it as
mhm,
much as what I think it should be.
yeah, sometimes it's the topic. It's whomever the guest is or co-hosts. There's a lot of different factors that go into it, and sometimes I feel like people aren't always feeling the show, but they're like, "Well,
Mhm.
fuck, now I have to do this show,"
Yeah,
and that's an even tougher part. I feel like showing up and pretending like you care for 2 hours an episode has got to be like so much work.
yeah, yep. It's
Uh,
like the Joe Rogan experience. Sometimes it's a hit and miss. I guess it's just the guests that he has that I'm interested in.
yeah, you
So,
know, I can tell you, I have never watched a single episode of the Joe Rogan Experience.
you know, that's 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 okay.
Yeah,
That's okay. You know what I mean?
it's
When I first heard Joe Rogan Experience, I was like, God, dude, everybody's listening to this podcast. I didn't want to listen to it, but
mm,
then saw a guest that he had on that I really loved. So I was like, and that's the only time I listen to it. When he's got the guest I want to hear, that's the
mm.
only time.
Yeah, like um, some of his guests, I really appreciate. But like Neil deGrasse Tyson, I've met him in person. Super
Really?
nice. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
When I was in college in my 20s, him and Dr. Michio Kaku came to my community college to come talk and do
No, that
presentations.
was in Florida, right?
Yeah, yeah, I was back in
Okay.
Florida. And so it was an amazing experience. They were both super cool and just being really nerdy for a few hours. It was an amazing thing to be a part of because people pay a lot of money to hear them talk. So being able to see them for free was huge. And then again, like they were so cool. Like there was no grandstanding. They weren't like, well, I'm better than you all. They were just there to talk about physics and the universe and all these different things. And, they fielded every type of question that came out of the crowd and really took the time to answer each one, which, again, I appreciated.
Hmm. That'd be really cool to meet Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, it's an experience for sure.
That's
But
I science. I do love science. Science is a big. It's fascinating to me. Without like he had one of the MythBusters on, and he had some kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? We can call it an object, but it was lighter than air,
hmm,
and it looked like bubbles. It was I cannot remember the name of it, but it was so cool look. And the dude from MythBusters was like geeking out like a little kid.
yeah,
I was like, that's just the cool part about science, man.
yeah, it's like looking at things that nobody thinks about or people might think about it and just be like, this is crazy. I don't even know how it works. And being
Mm-hmm.
able to like explain that to people, but do it in a way where they can actually understand it is
Mm-hmm.
that's a level of teaching I don't think I will ever reach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like math can suck it though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, dude. Fuck.
I trigonometry is probably the only one I like, but the rest of that shit, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Like I don't. I don't want to look. I don't want to use imaginary numbers to solve an equation. It's just like, does this fucking work or does it not work?
Yeah, like you math nerd, get over here. Like you figure it out.
It's like I don't know. Math has never really been my subject, but like I also really love science. And they're like, oh well, in order to be good at math, you have to know how to do this thing in science, or vice versa. And I'm like, I don't believe that. Like, I
Nah.
refuse to believe it because I don't want to do math.
Yeah. But like it was that age old argument when you were in school, like, can I just use a calculator for this?
Yeah,
And
and they're
turns out
like,
I could.
yeah, and they're like, no, you're never gonna have access to a calculator. It's like, really? Because I've
It's on
taken
my
courses.
phone.
Yeah, I've taken courses where my professor was like, you have to have a calculator.
Hmm.
Same thing with like cursive. We had to learn cursive in preschool. And they're like, when you get to elementary school, you're going to need cursive. Got to elementary school, they're like, you're going to need cursive for middle school. Got to middle school, it was kind of like, Got to high school, wrote in cursive. Every one of my professors was like, if you ever turn in a paper in cursive, I will not accept it. You get to college, you don't even write anything. Everything is typed. Every
Yep.
single
Yep.
thing.
It's it's that same thing. Like I think my teachers were full of shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. A lot of it seems like it's either redundant or it's just like, man, this is just keep yourself busy. Go sit in the corner.
Well, like teach us some life lessons. How to balance a checkbook. What does a bank statement say? Like shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I took home ec. I actually really loved home ec. Like I was one of two guys in the class. Like
Hmm.
everyone else was girls. So it was like the first half of the year we learned how to like sew, how to knit, how to patch up our clothes. In the second half, we did a lot of cooking.
Hmm.
And like, I honestly, like, it was a very fulfilling class because I'm like, cool, I get to learn these things. Like, I know how to sew up my clothes when I have a tear in them, when I blow out the crotch on a pair of pants, how to sew on a patch over something. But, it's like a lot of people just have never thought about it, or they're just like, you know what? If I can throw the pants away, I'll get a new pair tomorrow.
Like, well, you say that when you actually need those pairs.
Yeah, dude. Fucking for real, man. Like, I have so many pairs of pants where I'm just like, I love these pants. I'm going to keep them. And then I just order like a patch that's the same color and I just sew them on the inside. New pants.
There you go.
Yeah.
There.
Simple
Chick
shit.
dig battle scars.
Yeah, just like start putting band patches over all the holes in my pants.
Or get some of those cool I don't know yeah, band. Yep, band. I thought you said brand.
Oh, no. I think I saw these really cool like iron on patches. And I
Hmm.
have these denim shirts. So I think I'm going to put the iron on patches on those. But they're all like flowers and shit.
Like kind of like a retro vest.
Yeah, sort of, yeah. Yeah, I have like three different denim shirts,
There
and
you
like
go.
I really just want to cut the sleeves off of them,
Yeah.
but I'm like
Yeah.
I can't do that. Like I deal enough with the allegations of people thinking that like I'm a sad cowboy. I'm like cutting the arms off my denim shirts would not help that at all.
No, no. No, 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 no. So,
Ugh,
so what else, man?
shit.
How long are you normally running one of these episodes? Like an hour?
Usually it kind of depends. Like sometimes, like I think my shortest one is like 34, 35 minutes.
It
Then
is tough for me to sit in front of a camera and talk for like at least 30. Like I try and keep it 30 minutes.
Yeah,
Like that's my attention span.
dude.
Uh, you know,
My
30 minutes.
my longest was like 2 hours.
Ooh, did you have a guest on?
Yeah, yeah. It was the first guest that I had. We had just did a show together like a week or two prior, if that. And I just
Okay,
hit him up and was like, "Hey, do you want to be my first guest?" And he was like, "Yeah, absolutely."
that's awesome.
And the last episode that I did with my friend Mary, we recorded an episode, and then, like I was telling you, we looked at it, and as the sun was starting to set, we realized like there's like 15 or 20 minutes where it's really dark in my house, so you can see us, but we couldn't adjust the lighting. And then when I
Hmm.
turned it on, it was great, but I'm like, it's going to seem weird that it's like super dark and then the lights are on. So we re-recorded the entire episode again from scratch, basically. So that was like almost 3 hours total of nonstop recording.
Hell yeah, dude.
But yeah, like being able to do shit like that is it's a lot of fun, and getting to talk to people and give them a platform to talk about what they enjoy, what they love, their inspirations, and kind of how it's helped them get to where they are is it's a really cool thing because you get to see the perspectives, people's approaches, like their drive and all that type of stuff. So
Hmm.
with that being said, so you moved back to Ohio from Denver.
Hmm.
Then you said you had to do some soul searching and things like that to.
Yeah. Yep. A lot of soul searching.
So how would you say like that's helped you as a person kind of go from where you were to where you are now?
Um, well, it was a big lesson I had to learn because a lot of the people that I've dated have not always been the best people, and I finally had to realize that my picker is off, like my internal wiring. So I've had to go in and rewire some of me, and in that process, you find out it's like working on a light up board. You
Mhm.
press one button, this light's supposed to light up, but you push a button and a different light lights up. So let's figure out why. So then you go in and figure out the wiring to it. Turns out there's another wiring problem over here.
Mhm.
But um, and I had to really realize that uh, I need to be more independent. Um, because like if I get into a relationship, I focus all on the relationship instead
Mhm.
of focusing on me. Um, and then another thing is just don't try and be in control so much. Kind of let life do what life is gonna do because it's gonna do it anyway.
Yeah.
And and live live in the moment because I do have a big problem with being present in the moment. I'm always either thinking of the future or the past, and it's like I'm robbing myself of the joy of the moment right now.
Mhm.
No matter how shitty the moment is, just enjoy that moment.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
so that's the big soul searching I've had to go on.
Nah, that's an important journey. It's
Hmm.
like I that's something that like I talk to a lot of people about. And I always I choose to compare myself to a garden where I'm constantly working on myself. Like
Hmm.
I'm picking weeds, I'm planting seeds, I'm watering it, I'm taking the things out of my life that I don't need there, and I'm making sure that what I'm doing is cohesive but also good for me. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
And whole thing with a garden is you can never stop working on it.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
well, day in, day out, like you have to put in the work because you might look at it and be like, "Oh, this is exactly what I wanted," and then a week later you go back and it's just like, well, fuck. Like I got all this grass sprouting over here. There's been little critters in here, like eating on my vegetables. Like you gotta stay vigilant and stay diligent with that type of stuff. And that's always my goal is like constantly be working on myself. And yeah, I tell people I don't want to be, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to be anyone's role model, but I would like to be there to help people realize like they don't have to stay where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes like I I realize like I have to be okay with having conversations with people, especially tough conversations, because it's like if you won't have them with people, who will? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah. Yeah. Um, there was one thing that I've always kept with uh, the podcast that, well, when I got into podcasts, it was like even if one sentence out of all the episodes gets you and makes you realize, okay, I need to change, or like helps you in any way, then my job's done. You know what I mean? So
dude,
like it could be an inspirational thing or something funny I said, but if it helped you, um, my job my job is done.
dude, yeah, it's like it's really surprising to me because sometimes I'm like, is this something that I want to keep doing? Like I see other people who have a lot more success, but just like what we were saying earlier, I'm like I can't compare myself to other people. Like
Yep.
I'm not talking about music, I'm not talking about movies, I'm talking about mental health. I'm
Mhm.
talking about the things that I think are necessary. And just
Mhm.
because I think they're necessary doesn't mean other people will. And just because I care about it doesn't mean other people will. But,
Mhm.
like I'll
The
be,
audience will find you.
yeah, like, and it's just like everything else. Like I don't want to rush this because like I want to make sure like, I'm doing it right. But, I'll be walking down the street and I'll bump into someone and they're like, "Hey, I listened to your podcast. I really enjoy it. When is the next episode coming out?"
Mhm.
Or, I had someone completely out of the blue, um, like respond to one of the episodes and was like, "Hey, like I just want to tell you, like I listened to this episode. I have tears in my eyes right now because I feel as though like without you knowing me, you are speaking directly to me."
Mhm.
And I'm like, wow, like that's amazing that I was able to do that for someone. And to sometimes it's not always who you're talking to, but it's what you're saying.
Mhm. Yep.
So like I treat a lot of these episodes as if I'm talking to a future or past version of me that needs to hear this. Where
Mhm.
it's like, hey, insecurities, hey, inspirations, hey, struggles, whatever the case may be, like there's always room to grow. And there's always room to, you know, take a little time to inflect and say like, am I doing this right? Can I do it better? Am I being the best version of myself? Or do I need to do some work? And the answer is always yes, I need to do more work. So it's like,
Mhm.
okay, how do I do it? How do I, work on myself more? And kind of just go from there.
Mhm.
And it's fun, it's scary, it's tough. It's
All the above.
yeah,
All the above.
it checks all the boxes at the same time.
Yep.
But it's like being able to go on this journey with other people and hopefully find people who want to come along or people who need to hear this or maybe they don't need to hear it and they just want to hear it. I feel like that's the goal.
Mhm. It's like it plants a seed.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe a couple years down the road, they're like, you know what? I should probably get into like
Yeah, and like
something around there. You know.
Yeah, like, going to therapy is so important, and you know, talking to people that you care about and people that you trust and people that you can trust about things in your life is something that we all need.
Yep.
And I was talking to someone the other day, and I was like, "Oh, like, have you ever gone to therapy?" And they took it as an insult, and I'm like, "I'm not trying to insult you or anything of the sort. Like, I just highly recommend going to therapy. Like, I've gone to therapy. You know, it's nothing to be ashamed of, and I think we need to remove the stigma attached to therapy, because if we're all carrying around all this emotional baggage and
Hmm.
ignoring it, it's like, how are we ever going to address it? How are we ever going to better ourselves?
Hmm.
And like, sometimes it's something small, sometimes it's something big, but it's being able to recognize it and be able to work on those things and move past it. But
Absolutely, man.
yeah, and
Absolutely.
it's like, even again, like with my comedy, like, I've told jokes about things that have happened to me in my life, and after my set, I've had people come up to me and be like, "Hey, man, um, I had a similar thing happen to me, and I didn't ever know how to talk to anyone about it. So, I just want to say thank you."
Hmm.
And sometimes it's like, it's something so silly. Like, I was hanging out with a group of people last night, and I was talking about how, for some reason, people keep mistaking me as being gay. And I've got nothing against the homies that are gay or bi or, curious or whatever the case may be, but that's just not me. And I was talking to them about how, like, there's twice now that I've gone on dates with guys without knowing I was on a date with a guy.
uh, how, how do you not know? Is it
I
just
it was like a group thing. Like, I had no idea.
so he
Like,
brought all his friends?
no, so the first time was when I moved to Alaska. I met these people on the bus to go to the resort we were going to work at. They invited me to a bonfire, like, as a group, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever. I could use more friends." And we were all hanging out, and then we all kept, like, splitting up to get firewood, but I kept ending up with the same dude. And at a certain point,
Uh,
everyone just kept asking me questions about myself, and, like, I thought it was weird, but I was like, okay, whatever. Like, they know each other, I don't know them. It seems kind of normal. And then they were like, "Oh, so, like, you lived in this certain place, right?" And I was like, "Yep." And they're like, "Oh, did you ever go to Pom Poms?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I fucking love their food. It's fantastic." They're like, "Oh, did you ever go to Parliament House?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I used to go there for the food all the time." All the places they were asking me were all gay bars, but all of them have amazing food. So I was going there for the food.
that's how they
They
get you.
they were going there to celebrate. And then when they got to Pulse, I'm like, I've never been to Pulse. But at the time, I had a roommate that was a drag queen. I'm like, he performed at Pulse, but I've never gone there to, like, support him. And then we started talking about other stuff, and then we split up for firewood again. I end up with the same dude again. And he's like, "Hey, so I have to ask you." I'm like, "Yeah." He was like, "You're gay, right?" I'm like, "No,
Oh,
not the last time I checked." And he was like, "Oh, okay, but, like, you're bi though, right?" I'm like, "Nope."
what's that?
Yeah, I'm like, not bi either. And he was like, "Are you sure?" I was like, "Am I sure that I'm not bi?" "Yes, I'm very sure." And he was like, "Oh my god." He's like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so embarrassed." He's like, "My friends thought you were gay, so they invited you to hook us up." And I was like, that explains,
Oh,
yeah. And I was like, that explains a lot of the questions I was getting. And then we come back with more firewood, and everyone is standing around, and they're all smiling at us like expectantly. And he puts his hand on my shoulder, and he was like, "I'll take care of this." And I was like, "Okay." So I'm just standing there looking at them, and they're like, "So?" And he just goes, "He's not a bottom." And I'm like, "Wait, what?"
y'all were talking about this? Like,
Yeah, and I'm like, "Wait, what?" And eventually, everyone is like, "Oh." And he's like, "Yeah, he's not gay." And they're like, "Oh, but you're bi." And I was like, "Why the fuck does everyone think that I'm gay or bi?" And they were like, "Oh, because of your shirt." And I was wearing a band shirt, and I was like, "Are you guys making fun of pop punk music? Like, pop punk's not gay." And they were
yeah, not no.
they were like, "No, the shirt you were wearing earlier." And earlier in the day, I was wearing a shirt. It was all black on the front, and then on the back, it said, "I support same sex marriage." And at that point, it wasn't legalized yet. And I was like, "Well, yeah, like I do. Like, whatever two people want to get married or of sound mind and body, I don't really give a shit." And they were like, "Yeah, but like, there are not many straight people who openly support it, so we just assumed you were gay." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Makes an ass out of you and me, my man. Like,
Yeah. And they all apologized, and they felt really bad, and I was like, "It's not a big deal." But we're all still like friends to this day, surprisingly. And the second time, I was at a bar, met this girl, thought she was super cute, asked her out. She said yes. We meet at a bar. I show up, and her friend shows up, who's a dude. So there's three of us, and we're sitting at a high top table, and we're hanging out talking. And then after like 30, 45 minutes, she was like, "Okay, well, I'm going to go." And I'm like, why are you leaving? And she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go grab my coat." And I was like, "Okay." So I walk over there with her. And I'm like, "Hey, so again, why are you leaving?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna leave you guys here to talk." And I'm like, "But why?"
yeah,
And she was like, "Because like I thought you guys were hitting it off." And I was like, "I'm not here for him. I'm here for you." And she goes, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." She's like, "I thought you were gay, so I brought him for you."
like, like, do I just have this like gaydar going off or some shit? Like, what the?
And I like, I don't know. I don't know. I stopped questioning it after a while.
It's just you. Hey, people give off that good energy. You know what I'm saying?
I guess so. And I'm like, I guess I would rather people think that I'm gay and trust me than for them to think I'm some sort of like evil man trying to
Yeah,
like take
yeah,
advantage of them. So it gets it's kind of funny, but it's kind of awkward at the same time. And then like, when I talk about my girlfriend, sometimes I just call her my partner, and people just assume if I say partner that I'm gay as well.
yeah.
And I'm like, "No, I have a wonderful girlfriend. Like she's fantastic. She is a woman, not a guy." And they're like, "Oh, I don't see it." And I'm like, "All right, man. Well, okay. I
Yeah,
can't."
it is like the partner terminology. It is a little. Oh, oh, did we cut out there for a sec?
Mm,
Um,
you're good.
oh, it is a little weird for me to hear the partner terminology too,
Mm,
because you just don't know.
yeah.
You you just don't know. So when everyone says partner, I'm like, I just move on with the conversation.
It's like, okay, neat.
Like, does this person enjoy anime?
Yeah,
Like,
you know, I've actually funny you bring up anime. I've never dated a girl who liked anime.
neither have I, and it's really annoying.
I don't know, like it used to bother me, but now I'm just like I think this is like I feel like every person needs like their thing that they do by themselves.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's anime and medieval video games, and that's like my thing.
And God, anime's so good. Some of the big ones, man. What was your favorite?
Right now, oh man, of course, I guess technically it's a manhwa because it's Korean, but Solo Leveling,
Okay.
fucking crazy. Actually, new episode dropped today, so
Okay.
I'm gonna watch that in a little bit, maybe tonight. Um, Solo Leveling, first season of Rise of the Shield Hero. Did you watch that one at all?
So my anime preferences are like kind of the big ones. Like
Okay.
like let's just no, I wouldn't want to say big. Let's say more mainstream, like Dragon Ball Z,
Okay.
Outlaw Star,
Yeah.
Gundam series.
Yeah.
Except like Gundam Seed, that shit was dumb.
Yeah.
Never, I don't get it. Um, cool robots, great animation, but like the storyline just killed it.
I didn't even bother to watch Gundam Seed. I stopped with Iron Blooded Orphans.
Didn't even watch that one.
I'm not gonna lie, that shit was tough to watch. Like
Mm-hmm.
it, like I think like the whole thing with anime for a long time was like it was very predictable. So you knew who was gonna live, who was gonna die. Oh, this character's getting too much screen time. Oh, you're about to die.
Mm-hmm.
But with Iron Blooded Orphans, it was like you would be watching an episode and then out of nowhere someone would just get murked and you're just like, what the fuck? Like why did this kid have to die? He was just trying to feed his family.
Yeah. You know what? I'll have to check it out. I'm not above checking. I'm not above checking when new ones out. Like, yeah, I just watched Appleseed a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you heard of that one.
Yeah, it was an Appleseed Cast. Is that what the one
It
was
was
called?
great back in the day.
Oh,
Dumb as shit now.
that's how I feel about what the fuck's that one anime called? Um, they did so many spin-offs of it. Sword Art Online.
No, doesn't ring a bell.
It was it came out, I want to say like late 2010s, but
Okay.
it's about this VR company. They create a game called Sword Art Online. You have to play with a VR headset. Then essentially what happens is the game malfunctions and everyone who's playing the game gets their consciousness stuck in the game. So
Oh,
they're stuck there, but if you die in the game, you die in real life. Yeah.
okay.
So it's based around the main character who is like trying to fight through this RPG world, but also is like trying to show people like, hey, you don't have to kill other people because you're essentially really murdering them. It's not just a game anymore. And like help other people and all this type of stuff. It's like the first season is really good. The second season is kind of like because like they get out of the game and then they go back in and then they made like a spin-off of it called Gun Gale Online and then like a bunch of other ones, but they just really milked the show for all of its worth and then more. And I think it kind of just killed all the potential that it had
Hmm.
to be such a classic.
Okay. I'll have to check that out. I, I'm I'm in the market, as it were, for a little new anime. I'm kind of getting burned out of one of them. But yeah, anime's good. Um, Also video games. Like, you know, if I could find the perfect gamer girl anime chick, we're set. Like we're set.
I don't know, man. Like I've met a few, and usually the the biggest issue is like they're much bigger gamers than me,
Yeah.
and I'm just like I don't want to play some weird JRPG that only has no subtitles or anything else. But like I appreciate people that can be like hardcore gamers. It's just not me anymore. Like
Mm.
I'm definitely more of like a casual gamer. So like I don't even really like playing online games because I don't want other people fucking with my shit.
Hmm.
So I actually just bought a new game earlier today. It's called Deliverance Kingdom Come, and
Okay.
it's an open world um, RPG, but it's based in like the medieval times.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I have like three or four games based in medieval times,
Hmm.
and you I like games that are like highly customizable, but this one you play as a character like trying to get revenge on it's like there are historical characters in the game.
Hmm.
So you're trying to kill I think it's like Sigismund of Denmark or whatever country he's from. It's because he led an army through the village that you grew up in and like murdered your parents.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's so far it's pretty good, but it's very immersive. Where like everything you do has lasting effects on like your character, the game itself. So it's like, do you want to do long range attacks, melee, stealth? Like if you try to haggle prices with someone in the market and they get pissed off, like you're that's going to affect them because if they become like a big time trader and they come across you again, they're not going to trade with you.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's like all that type of shit.
Okay. So very real world scenarios built in.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So there are times where it's like, okay, this is a lose lose situation, but which do I think is less important to lose face with? Like my friends or this old crazy dude who we're going to throw cow shit at. So it's kind of,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Lose that. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. So it's stuff like that. But I enjoy those games because like I don't really have to play with other people. I don't have to talk to anybody. I can
Yeah.
put on a podcast in the background or episode of a show or just listen to music and just play and not have to worry about anything else.
Hmm.
Then outside of that, I still play League of Legends. Then
I love their theme music.
yeah, they've
Like
done a
that.
lot.
Yeah. Like tonight, we're gonna get on Sea of Thieves and run some Hourglass, which is like PvP.
Okay.
So that's gonna be pretty interesting. So here in like the next 10 minutes.
Oh shit.
So
Well, hell
so
yeah.
yeah, we're gonna be running some PvP, and that gets very sweaty.
Yeah, I can only imagine. But yeah, if you're gonna hop on that, we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode.
Okay.
So, uh, like everything else, I think this is a good point to stop the episode.
Okay.
Uh, so I'm gonna go into the outro and then kind of give you a chance to sort of give any like parting words or wisdom or
Okay.
again allow you to plug your podcasts, social media, that type of stuff.
Okay.
All right. So beautiful people, I think this is a good spot to stop today's episode. James and I have done a lot of talking about a lot of topics, a little bit of everything, which is kind of the way we like it. So, with that, we want to thank James again for being here. James, do you have any final words you want to leave with the people? And also, any social media, upcoming events, plans, anything like that?
Some final words I'd leave is be true to yourself, and always always laugh. Laughter is the best medicine. My social medias. on Instagram is at on the level 162 and at Mind of JPA. And you can find me on TikTok at on the level 162 gaming. And I want to thank you for having me on your show. It was a blast. It was a real blast.
Dude, absolutely. Anytime. Like, you're more than welcome to come back whenever. Then, if I ever download Sea of Thieves, I don't know if we can
Hit me
collab on
up.
that.
Hit
I
me up.
don't. I don't want to drag you guys down and just keep
I
that one.
actually I actually love teaching people that when they play because a lot of people have helped me. So I just want to give back. So if you ever download that game, hit me up and we'll go sink some people.
Sweet. So, Sea of Thieves, are you going to be live streaming Sea of Thieves tonight?
Yes, on
All right.
Twitch.
And what days do you normally stream and what time?
Uh, I try and do every day. So Monday through Thursday is going to be from 4 to 7. And then on the weekends, it's just kind of random. So hit that notification bell and you see me pop up there.
Cool. And 4 to 7, what time zone?
Eastern Standard Time.
Okay. 4 to 7 EST, Twitch, on the level 162.
Yep.
Perfect. Definitely going to check you out, hit you with the follow.
I
Then
appreciate it.
anything big coming up you want to announce to the people?
Not right now, but we do have a few things in the coming down the pipes. So I will definitely be on social media.
Hell yeah. Super stoked for that. Going to keep an eye out for it. Uh, as for me, we are moving forward with our first out of state comedy show. So we have a little bit of finalizing we need to do. So hopefully in the coming weeks, we'll have that announcement ready. Also, it's looking like Sundays, I will be at the Leadville Farmers Market selling my overnight oats. Super excited, kind of unexpected. Started with a casual conversation, but now we're going to be doing that every Sunday, 11 to 3 at the Aleak Beer Garden. So come through. I'm really excited to, again, be a part of that and to see the other vendors that are going to be there. I love a good farmer's market. What can I say? Then outside of that, this upcoming Monday, March 31st, will be open mic at the pad in Silverthorne, 7 to 9 MST. Come out, tell a joke, sing a song, do some slam poetry. Doesn't really matter. Just come out, enjoy yourself. If you have a talent, come show it to the people. Then, outside of that, just wrapping up this semester. Hopefully, take a couple weeks off and just relax a little bit. So, with that, remember, be good to yourself, be good to the world around you, and remember, we love you, homie. We'll see you next time.